Well, Anna Petherick is co-principal investigator of the Oxford University COVID Government Response Tracker. It's been looking at how closely people have followed COVID rules all the way through the pandemic. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I must ask you the question I'm sure most viewers are wondering. How has our adherence to the rules changed through the pandemic?
So it's quite reassuring, actually, in some ways. When we started looking at this question, we were worried about the idea of pandemic fatigue. So the idea that people simply get sick and tired of following all of these difficult protective behaviours. And what we found is that, yes, there is a drop-off from initial adherence for the physical distancing behaviours, and these are quite individually costly. But we actually saw the opposite trend for mask wearing. And so we tried to think about the logic of why this might be the case. And physical distancing is kind of like doing difficult things at the gym. Each press up gets harder, it's cost accumulating, but mask wearing is habituating. It's like wearing a seatbelt or a helmet or something, you get used to it.
That's very interesting. I must ask you though, is an understanding of the rules a factor here? As the rules keep changing, do people manage to keep track of what they are at any one point?
Well, I can say as someone who co-leads a project where we have 1,000 volunteers day after day coding government policy around the world, sometimes it's hard for us to understand the government policies. And this is actually a really important point because we know that clear messaging and goal-orientated messaging helps people stick to protective behaviours. So if I can give you an example quickly, there's a study in Italy that compares part of the country where there wasn't a clear goal, just keep doing all of these behaviours, with another part of the country with some clearly defined goals. You know, when we achieve this, we'll stop the lockdown. And again, it's kind of like doing press-ups. If you say just keep doing them, people don't really adhere nearly as much as if you say we're going to do 20 and I'm going to count you down.
What about the behaviour of our political leaders? Of course, there's a huge amount of attention on what happened in Westminster last December. Do you think that will have an impact on people's adherence?
So I think trusting government is important, and we don't actually have brilliant studies on this right now because a lot of our trust data doesn't keep up with how much things are changing. And typically social scientists would say that trust in government doesn't change quickly. But I think COVID is so salient and so relevant to people's lives that might not be the case. I do think what the Prime Minister says in terms of clarity and messaging is incredibly important, as are the behaviour of all leaders around the world.
And finally, Anna, can we say that certain countries are demonstrably better at following the rules than others?
So one clear outcome we've found is that countries that have high trust in others in society and strangers are much better at sticking with the policies over time. And this is the most difficult to stick to policies, the stay-at-homes, the ones that really cost you personally. And we think this is because, well, it's in a certain sense a simple logic. It's only going to create the outcome you want of a lower infection rate if you believe that others, people you don't know, are also doing the same thing. And if you don't believe that, then why should you pay the high individual cost of staying at home, not seeing your friends, not going to work?
Thanks for talking to us, Anna. Absolutely fascinating. That's Anna Petherick from Oxford University.